What's up, guys? Welcome back to the show. It's good to be with you today. My name is Hunter, and thank you for listening to the Hunter's Quest podcast. And today is my first solo video podcast. So if you're listening, you can watch this on YouTube if you feel so inclined. But anyway, since it is my first solo YouTube podcast, I thought it'd be fitting to talk about my first solo backcountry hunt, which was a hunt here in my home state of Virginia this last fall. So, we talk a lot on the show about adventure and excitement and kind of these big trips, and those are amazing. And I definitely recommend, traveling, getting outside of your comfort zone and just going on these, bucket list type hunts whenever you can. But the fact of the matter is there is plenty of adventure to be found right in your own backyard too. So, you can find adventure just a couple hours from your house just as easily as you can, jumping on a plane and going to the other side of the world. So I thought it'd be worthwhile to share my experience with you guys in my first kind of backcountry trip, multi-night kind of thing. So I've done lots of hunting alone, but like I said, this was the first time I went, on a multi-day, overnight trip by myself. And it's something that as a younger hunter and someone less experienced, the idea of camping by myself never really appealed to me, or it just didn't sound very fun, and just sounded kind of creepy, but as I've grown as a hunter and as a man, and gotten some experience out west, and also just some personal development and learning about, the importance of stretching yourself and doing hard stuff and pushing yourself and getting out of your comfort zone. I decided, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go ahead and just go on a hunt by myself. Not to mention, it's just, you can't always jump on an airplane and go on one of these big time hunts, especially if you, work a normal 9 to 5 or you got kids, sometimes it's just not really that doable. So, but a lot of guys can jump in your truck for the weekend, or, take off on Friday, go for 2 or 3 days. And so, not only that, but it's also a great place to start if you want to start getting into doing more adventure hunts, or if you want to test out your gear and see what it's like just to hunt solo for a while. So, especially if you live out east, like here in Virginia. So I live in southeastern Virginia, Chesapeake. And I went to Alaska last year, but that was my only mountain hunting trip. And so about November, I started getting the itch to get back in the mountains and do another backcountry style hunt. So I just decided I'm going to pack up my truck and drive out to the western part of the state. So like I said, my home state is Virginia, and we have tons of great, public land on the western part of the state, the Jefferson and Washington National Forest. There's also some great wildlife management areas and stuff like that. We have some wilderness areas and some really rugged country. And a lot of states here on the East Coast have lots of public land in the Appalachian Mountains. It doesn't get talked about as much. Some areas, the deer densities can be low and that kind of thing, and it is tough hunting. It's rugged country. But if you just want to go out and have an adventure, it's awesome. Not to mention, you don't got to play the tag game. You don't got to worry about not getting drawn. Like here in Virginia, you buy your hunting license and your deer tags. I think you get 6 deer tags, and then you just got this wide open, just possibilities out in front of you of all this mountainous terrain, and really nice extensive trail systems to get you back in there. Rugged, beautiful, mountainous country, and also no pressure, guys. If you go out there in bow season or muzzleloader, in my experience, you will barely see anyone, if at all. And certainly if you get like more than a couple hundred yards off of a main road, you will not see anyone. Even in rifle season, I've done rifle out there too, and we saw a few guys out there. But again, if you're willing to just get a little bit off of a main road, you have just tons of land to yourself. So, if you've been thinking about getting into adventure hunting, or you just want to get out for a long weekend, just start having fun, plan something in your own home state if you live out east or wherever, man. So anyway, about, like I said, it was November, first week of November, and I decided to go out and do the muzzleloader season. So the muzzleloader season opens about a week before rifle comes in most counties here in Virginia. On the National Forest, it is buck only, except for on a few Saturdays of the year. But I'm gonna pull up my phone here and kind of go through some of the pictures and stuff I took, just to kind of keep me on track with the story. But yeah, I started off by kind of doing some e-scouting, and like I said, I just had that itch, and didn't have the time or money or whatever to go on another trip. Just got back from Alaska, but I was able to talk my wife into letting me go for a 3-day weekend. And so just started e-scouting, using Onyx, checking out different areas, and looking at the counties and the wilderness areas and stuff like that. And I found a pretty cool, good-looking spot. I believe it was in Augusta County this year. And I found what looked like a kind of an older trail or logging road that had been closed to vehicle traffic, that had what looked like a nice kind of clearing about a mile off the road. So my plan was to head in there and, hike in with all my gear and set up camp in this clearing. And so that's what I did. So, I was using all my same kind of Western, ultralight backpacking stuff that I had kind of accumulated for Alaska. So I have my EXO K3 4800. And what I did with that was I have a kind of lightweight lone wolf climbing stand. And I haven't got into saddle hunting yet. That's something that I might want to get into at some point. But in the meantime, this lone wolf tree stand, this climber, is pretty light and pretty low profile. So I threw that thing in like the meat shelf of my pack. It fit in there really nicely. It's not super light, but it fit in there nicely. And then I had my Big Agnes copper spur ultralight tent, clothing, I think food for 3 days, and cooking stuff, my muzzle loader, extra loads, extra charges, and that's pretty much it. Sleep system, yeah, not a whole lot, but it was pretty much uphill. Once I had to cross over this little creek right when I started, and it was off a pretty well-established logging road on National Forest, but there was nobody at the trailhead parked, so crossed this little creek and just started. And it was a little weird, to be honest, like heading in alone for the first time, like just something I'd never experienced before. So it was a little eerie, but it was kind of like that game time feeling in your stomach, and looking back on it, it's an awesome experience. Although it's just a little creepy, the first time you do it. So anyway, I started hiking in, and it was pretty decent uphill, and my pack was pretty heavy with muzzle loader and tree stand and all my gear. But I started seeing sign like right away, which was cool. There was tons of rubs all over the side of this little, I don't even know what you would call it. It was like a footpath, but it wasn't like a hiking trail. I really don't know why this area was there. It was just like a little trail up to a clearing, like a little field. Maybe it used to be a farm back in the day or something. I don't know, but only about, I'd say maybe an acre, maybe 3 to 5 acre little clearing maybe smaller. I'm not really sure, but anyway, hiked in there and started seeing sign right away. And got some pictures here I'm looking at of some rubs I was looking at. And so that was encouraging. So I got in there, set up my camp, and the plan was I had e-scouted the whole area, and it looked like some decent spots back in the woods, some like laurel thickets, and it went down this ravine into a creek. And the plan was to kind of get in there, get camp set up, and then look for a place to hunt that evening, but mainly kind of scout, find a spot to hunt and the next morning. So kind of find a spot, hang my stand, and sit there if I had time, but mainly look for identify a really good spot for in the morning. So after I get camp set up, lightened the load, grabbed my muzzleloader, and started hiking around. And again, I was seeing pretty good sign on all the edges of this clearing and whatnot. And there's a huge oak tree, like kind of in the middle of the clearing, that was dropping just tons of acorns. So I was feeling pretty good. And then I started hiking back into the woods. And, as most of you guys probably know, if you've done any e-scouting and then actually get boots on the ground, like, the aerial maps don't tell the full story. So, I got about 20 yards into the woods on the north side of this clearing, and it was pretty much impenetrable. Like, it was just so thick. And so I kind of had to turn around. It was just not even huntable. It was so thick. And so I turned around, kind of came back to the clearing, was kind of confused as to what to do. Decided I would try this other side to see if I could go on the east side of this clearing and drop down into this ravine, and kind of follow that creek and see if I could find any sign down there or whatever. And so again, it was super thick trying to get out there. And for whatever reason, this was November 3rd, but it was really hot. I think it was like, high 70s, maybe close to 80 in the heat of the day, which was unseasonably hot, but that's Virginia weather is crazy. But so I'm sweating and, trying to fight through this laurel. And anyway, so I got to kind of the edge of the ravine there, and it was way steeper than I thought and way thicker. Again, like it was bad. So, I figured, I can fight my way down there, probably take a couple hours and get down there basically at dark, because this was about 2 p.m. at this point. And then, I don't know, have maybe 30 minutes before dark and then have to fight my way back up here. I was like, I just didn't think it was worth it. And it was so thick and so steep, like it was basically unhuntable. So I managed to come out of there, and I was just like, I was just confused. So I decided, it's not ideal, but I was just going to kind of sit on this clearing, for the evening and possibly the morning as well. So, like I said, in the middle of the clearing, there was this huge oak tree dropping tons of acorns, and the wind was pretty good. So I found a tree and I set up on the edge of this clearing and just decided to see if, maybe something would pop out into the open of this clearing. I'd say from where my tree stand was to the other side of the clearing, it was probably like 200 yards, which is definitely not in my max effective range with that muzzleloader. I was borrowing my friend Ned's muzzleloader, so I hadn't had a ton of practice with it. It's a CVA Wolf, which is a great weapon system that you can get really cheap if muzzleloader is a option in your area. So nice gun, but for a good price. But yeah, anyway, 200 yards is just outside my range. But I had pretty good visibility of this whole kind of clearing, and I thought, maybe something will pop in here and we'll get a shot. So got up in there. It got actually kind of chilly that night, and threw on my my Kuiu puffies, which are like wearing a sleeping bag. So stayed nice and comfortable, but did not see any deer that night. And then, climbed down and went back to camp. And I didn't really have any light source. I didn't make a fire. Looking back, I probably would have made a fire, but I don't know. I was pretty tired. I wasn't planning on staying up super late anyway, so I just kind of like cooked a little mountain house and sat there in the dark and ate that. And it was a little eerie, I won't lie. Some guys are probably listening to this and think I'm a huge wimp, but it was like I said, it was the first time I'd done a solo, kind of trip like this, and so it was a little creepy. I'm not gonna lie, but not a big deal. So yeah, ate my mountain house and just called it a night. Crawled in the tent. I on these ultralight hunts, I think I've been over it before, but I have a Thermarest Neo Air ultralight pad, which is a great little system. I use an inflatable pillow, like just the way I sleep. I'm a side sleeper, and I need to have something under my head, or else my neck just gets jacked. And usually try to put something between my legs, whether it's a jacket or something. But and like I said, my tent is the Big Agnes Copper Spur UL ultralight high volume tent. It's a really good tent. I took that to Alaska last year. Kept me dry through days of rain, and I think it's a little over 2 pounds or something. Great little one-man tent, big vestibule on it, so you can keep gear in there and stuff. But anyway, slept pretty good, and I think I had a 15-degree bag, which was plenty. So anyway, woke up the next morning, and I didn't have any other choice because it was, like I said, I didn't find anything in that spot. So I was just going to kind of sit in the morning back in the same tree and just hope I saw something. I didn't have super high expectations for the morning, to be honest. So the goal was just to kind of sit, see what I see, and then, hit the road and try to find something better for the next evening and next morning. So, that's always fun, waking up super early in the dark and getting dressed, but got my stuff together, headed out and sat in my tree. And man, about the time I got up, it was still pitch black dark. So I usually get in the stand about an hour before sunrise, which some guys probably think that's way too early, but I just like to get in, especially like in a climber with all that gear and all that stuff. I like to get in, get settled, and give the woods plenty of time to quiet down, before stuff starts heating up. So then about an hour before before sunrise, and just about 10 minutes after I got in my stand, I heard this dog barking, and I'm like, what is that? Like, who the heck has a dog back here before sunrise in the pitch black dark, like more than a mile back in off the road? And so I keep listening, and it turns out it was a coyote, but I just never heard a coyote bark like that. Like it sounded exactly like a dog. It was super weird. And so the thing just sat there barking at me for it seemed like 10 minutes. And then a couple other ones sort of chimed in, started barking. I think they had winded me, but didn't know, maybe they heard me. I'm not sure. Maybe they saw me walk in. I'm not sure, but it was kind of like they weren't sure what I was, so they were just sitting there barking at me. And anyway, that was strange, and I'm not gonna lie, I was glad that I was up in a tree at that point, but just kind of weird. I'd never heard that before. So anyway, that they eventually stopped, and it was a pretty chilly morning actually, but I was layered up and just sitting there waiting, and then I don't know, maybe an hour after sunrise or something, I did see a doe moving just on the other side of the woods from me, other side of the clearing, just inside of the woods. So, I was, like I said, I was not hopeful really about this spot. So just seeing something up and moving, I was encouraged. And, being that it's early November, there's always a possibility there's a buck nearby if you see a doe. So I saw her move across, and I was kind of like, okay, all right, maybe this will be all right. And again, she was way out of range, but and I just saw her for a minute, but it's always good when you see something at least verifies like your existence of being there. It's like some sort of hope. So anyway, but then like maybe 30 minutes after that, I still to this day have no idea what it was, but I heard what sounded like, I can't even describe it. It sounded like a steam, like half a dozen like steamrollers or like of vehicles or something like rolling through the leaves that were on the ground, like, and it started like a wave, like really loud on the other side of the clearing from me, and went and moved through. But I'm not exaggerating. Like, granted, this, like I said, was my first backcountry kind of solo thing, but I've spent a lot of time in the woods and in tree stands. I've never heard anything like this. It's like, it's really hard to describe. Like, it's like tons of crunching leaves, like an army was moving through this area and fast, like, but I never saw any animals. So I wasn't like, I didn't know if it was maybe like a family of bears or something like rolling around, or, maybe it was that pack of coyotes running through, but it was just very strange because it was very loud, pretty fast moving, sounded like a lot of whatever it was. But I never saw any animals. So anyway, that was really strange. So I don't know if anyone's ever experienced that or has any idea what that might be. Definitely drop me a line on Instagram or email me, hunter@thisishuntersquest.com. Like I said, to this day, I still don't know what it was. It was very weird, but kind of creepy too. But anyway, so that happened. And then, I sat there a while. Like I said, I'm not the best about staying in tree stands super long. Like once it gets, unless it's like peak rut and there's stuff moving around all over, I'm pretty much out by 10:30 normally. So, and plus I wanted to find a better spot. Like, just didn't seem like a great spot. So climbed down the tree, and as I was walking out, actually, I saw a doe at the end of the clearing, like really close to my campsite, actually, probably like 50 yards from my campsite. So I kind of stalked in on her just to see what would happen, and actually got to within 20 yards probably of this doe. And then eventually she saw me and, locked on, and, I really was wishing that it was a doe day, honestly. Like, if it had been a legal doe day, I would have absolutely taken her, no question. Like, I'm not proud. I'm not a trophy hunter. Like, I'm a meat hunter, and definitely would have taken her, but it wasn't a doe day. So let her walk, and kind of hung out there for a little bit to see if anything might be behind her. Wasn't. But I was generally pretty encouraged by the fact that I had seen that deer earlier in the morning, and then saw another one in a low density area. So it wasn't, for me, that was kind of a win, especially given the minimal kind of, I did a fair amount of e-scouting, but this is a 3 or 4 hours away type area, so I'm not really able to get boots on the ground. So just kind of basically going in there somewhere blind. I was encouraged to see some life, basically. So anyway, after that little encounter, I went back and packed up camp. And while I was sitting on my tree stand that morning, I was on Onyx, like trying to figure out, like, okay, what's my next move? And, I'd remembered hearing some podcasts and stuff about guys talking about eastward facing slopes and stuff like that. So I started kind of just starting from a high level, looking for some areas in the vicinity that looked interesting on Onyx, and that were good with the prevailing wind, and try to find some eastward facing slopes and some areas that were accessible, somewhat accessible by vehicle and stuff like that. So anyway, I thought I'd found a couple areas that looked decent. So got camp packed up and headed back. And so one thing that's just popped in my mind that I kind of do, I always hide like a spare key like somewhere near my vehicle. Sometimes I'll even leave it in the gas tank. But I don't know, like I just always have the fear of like getting a couple miles back and like dropping and losing my keys somewhere, then I'm like stranded. So I always take my keys or a spare key and like bury it or hide it somewhere near my vehicle. Obviously, carefully, don't want to lose it, but that's something I always do. But anyway, so got back, recovered my key, got my stuff together, and took off to the next spot. Did some driving around, and then I found the area that I had kind of identified on Onyx that looked decent, and it was up on top of another ridge, and then like the road kind of ran up along this ridge, and then there was little logging roads that shot off the sides of the ridge that went down into some different areas. Anyway, so I found this one that had a little, I don't even know what to call it. It wasn't really a hiking trail. I guess maybe at some point it was a hiking trail, but anyway, whatever it was closed to vehicles, and it was off the main kind of logging road. So I decided I was going to check that out. So once I got up there, again, let's see, I didn't pitch my camp at this point because I wasn't sure if I was going to go there or not. I just kind of readjusted my bag with into kind of my scouting setup. I don't think I even took my tree stand. Let me think. No, I don't think I even took my tree stand. I was just kind of on a scouting mission. And this was about, I want to say 12:30 in the afternoon. I knew time was starting to get short. So I parked up near the road and just bombed down this trail that went down off the ridge and into, there was a little creek down at the bottom. And just kind of, I wanted to cover as much ground as possible and just kind of take note of things as I went along, because this little trail went probably 2 or 3 miles back off the main road. So I'm just kind of moving along, taking note. I noticed it looked like a decent spot when I got to where the creek intersected with the trail, but I wanted to continue and see what was up ahead. Found some beautiful kind of meadows back there. But I decided I'd already kind of sat on a meadow kind of clearing type area, and I wanted to be sort of more in the timber. And I wasn't seeing any sign really around those meadows, even though they looked beautiful. So like I said, I probably went back like 3 miles back in there, just exploring. And then, I was kind of feeling, okay, maybe there's something in here. And then I went back down to where the creek intersected the trail, and right there next to the creek was a pretty decent sized eastward facing slope. There was some acorns in the area. There was water right there. And so it's kind of one of those edge type areas where you have a slope coming down, and then you have some water. There was some pine and then also some hardwood mixed in. So it seemed like it could be a decent area. I didn't have a lot of options, honestly. Time was getting low, and I needed to kind of like make a decision. So I got off the trail and kind of followed the creek up, not far, maybe 300-400 yards. And I looked over, I saw a huge scrape. So, personally, I've never had a ton of luck, to be honest, hunting over scrapes. Well, yeah, I've never had any luck hunting over scrapes, to be honest. But either way, it felt like confirmation. It was like, okay, it's sign. There's deer here in the area. It was kind of like, okay, you're not crazy. You were right. This is a decent area. So I was like, you know what, that's good enough. And like I said, time was getting short. I didn't have a ton of options. And my trip, it was only a 2 or 3 day trip. So I saw that scrape and I was like, all right, cool. This is it. Let's just hunt here. So at that point, I book it. Then probably a mile and a half back to the trailhead where my truck was. And that was the other thing too, is just a great walking path, like almost right to the spot. So you could get in there really quietly. Like it wasn't like you were bushwhacking for a mile, like scaring every animal in the woods out of there. There's a decent trail. I knew that the next morning I'd be able to sneak in there pretty easily. So I bombed back to the truck, set up camp super fast right there at the trailhead next to my truck. Tried to, and it was still warm. So I was like ripping clothes off, like setting up camp in my underwear, trying to like keep my scent down as much as possible. But anyway, then got my hunting stuff together, and went back to the spot, and hung my stand and got up in there and found a really nice tree, like really close to that scrape. A little closer than I would have liked to be, honestly, but not a whole lot of options. Again, which is a reason why I'd love to maybe get into saddle hunting at some point. Right now I got too much going on with my Western stuff to really invest heavily in the whitetail stuff right now. But at some point I'm going to move to saddle. It opens up your options a lot when it comes to trees. But anyway, I just picked the best tree I could and got up in there, and sat. It was a beautiful spot. You could hear the water running. And one thing I found that was good for me, it worked for me well, was so the tree stand, the Lone Wolf tree stand, it has backpack straps on it, so I didn't need to pack it in with my EXO pack, because it was kind of just, it wasn't going into camp in there. I just had my hunting stuff, so it was only, like I said, like a mile and a half from my truck. And but I did take the lid of my EXO. So the lid pops right off and you can use that as like a day bag. So that was good to be able to put my puffies in there, a few other items, my inReach and whatnot, my extra muzzleloader stuff. So got up there. Oh, another thing that I really like to carry when I'm using a climber is, I don't know what they're called, but it's like a strap and it's got hooks on it that you can just like clip it around the tree and you can hang stuff on there. Like the Lone Wolf climber I'm in is like, it's very, Spartan. I don't know. It's just like a tiny little platform and like a small foot platform. There's no rail. You can't like hang your jacket on, like, so, I've found when I'm trying to get settled and get my gear straight and everything, it's really helpful to have something you can hang stuff on, and you don't want to always be screwing stuff into a tree, and not only can it damage the tree, but it's just kind of a pain. So it was actually my cousin got it for me for Christmas one year. It's just a strap. It's got these plastic hooks on it, and you just strap it on the tree. I always carry one of those when I'm going to be climbing. So clip that thing on there. You can hang your gun on it. You can hang your jacket on it, your little day bag or whatever. So that was money. Anyway, got up in the tree and sat there. It was a beautiful, beautiful evening, beautiful sit, listening to the water. And yeah, it was a great evening hunt. I didn't see anything, of course, but yeah, climbed down and I was pretty stoked because I thought it was going to be a really good spot for in the morning. And that's kind of the way, the best way that I found to hunt in this style. If you're going in relatively blind to an area, do your best to scout, find something that looks good for an evening sit. Get your climber in there in the daylight when you can see and everything. Sit there in the evening and then climb down, and then you can just leave your climber at the base of the tree. Go back to your campsite or whatever. You know exactly where it is in the morning. It's already set up. The lengths are adjusted properly. You set it up and tried it already, so you're not going to be climbing up in the dark and running into a limb you didn't see and getting screwed. So it's kind of like a dry run in the evening, and you just know where your tree's at. It's a good tree. And if you have to change it up, you can. But it's just nice to get things set up and ready to go on your tree the night before, and then leave your setup there. So that's what I did. Left my setup there, and yeah, headed back to the trailhead. And that night was much colder. So, you know, that night I actually, like, since I was by my truck, I actually got in my truck and like turned it on and turned the heat on while I was eating my mountain house. And I felt like it was like the lap of luxury, man. Like it was, I just felt like, I don't know, when you don't have the creature comforts, a little bit feels like a lot. So compared to the night before when I was just sitting on the ground, alone in the dark, basically cold, which was fun. But I was able to sit in my truck. I think I actually was like listening to a podcast or something for a little bit, had the heat roll in and was eating my meal, and it just felt nice. I'm not going to lie. So again, probably some of you guys are out there thinking I'm a huge sissy, but whatever. It felt good to get in there and get some heat, and I could actually see my food while I was eating, and just not sit there in complete silence in the dark. Like I said, hunting by yourself is an experience. It's something different. So anyway, after I did that, I think I sent an inReach message to the wife, just let her know I was all right, and was hopeful about the morning. So packed her in, reluctantly got out of the heat in the car, and crawled in the tent, and had a really good night's sleep, and woke up again in the morning ready to go. So yeah, like I said, I like to get in there pretty early. So yeah, woke up the next morning. Like I said, it was considerably colder that next morning, but I was hopeful, and it just feels nice knowing your tree stand is hung on in a good area. Like I said before, the tree is going to work. You don't got to be worrying about finding a tree in the dark. You don't got to be worried about, setting your stand, the circumference of your straps wrong. So you're like, slanted all the way, what I'm talking about. It's just nice. So, woke up, got my hunting stuff together, and started down this trail, which again was super nice. To have like a footpath that went almost right to the stand. It did have to get off trail a little bit, but that's something else that, is something good to carry. Sometimes I'll carry those little night eyes, reflecting tacks in with me. Just make sure when you leave, you get them, unless you're going to be coming back or something. But if you're doing like a one night thing like this and you want to mark your spot, that's something good to have. Those little glowing, reflective tacks, or, you can be more incognito and just kind of put like a stick or something on the trail. But even if it's an easy seeming find the next day, just on the abundance of caution, mark your spot where you're going to have to turn in. So that's what I did. I had a big stick laid out in the trail so I wouldn't miss it. Plus it was right by a creek, so it was pretty hard to miss. But yeah, I was able to sneak back in there. I think I had jumped a deer on the way in, if I remember correctly. But it was a pretty good area. Like I said, I was hopeful. Got in there, snuck in. My climber is really quiet, so those lone wolf climbers, I need to get another one. It's starting to get a little old, but they use this like rubber strap kind of thing. It's almost like a belt type material, this rubberized stuff, but it's super quiet. So I do really like that tree stand lone wolf climber. It's an older one. It's probably like 10 years old, to be honest with you. But it's no nonsense. Like I said, small. You definitely want to wear a harness because it's kind of creepy up there. If you're any more than like 15 feet off the ground, like I said, the platform is small. It's probably like this big, and so yeah, wear your harness for sure. It's a little creepy, but It is light and mobile, and it's served me well. So anyway, climbed up in there and sat, and just had a really beautiful morning. Just watched the sunrise. Like I said, you could hear the brook creek right behind me, kind of babbling, and just really beautiful country. I didn't see any deer in the new spot, which is kind of interesting because I really thought it was going to be a good spot. But like I said, hunting the mountains in Appalachia, like that's just something you got to get kind of used to. And it's something I'm not used to, as a guy coming from hunting farming land, where I'm at, the deer densities are high, and it's not a question really of if you're going to see a deer. It's like, are you going to see the one you want to shoot? Is it going to be in range? But you're pretty much going to see deer, like, for the most part. So it's definitely something to get used to in terms of, to be successful. It's going to take more effort, more time, more patience. And that's where listening to guys like Bo Martonic from East Meets West, or Nathan Killen, these types of dudes that have a lot of experience hunting mountain bucks. It's a different game. It's like, it's just a different game. That's all I can say. But the opportunity is there, and it's waiting for you. You can have just as much of an adventure driving 3 hours into the mountains in your home state as you can, waiting 3 years to draw an elk tag out west. I think you should do both, but all I'm trying to say is get out there. So anyway, I sat there. Again, I'm not super good about staying in the stand like all day or anything, and I just wasn't seeing any really like rut activity or anything like that anyway. So I did eventually climb down, and to be perfectly honest with you, I was thinking about originally this being a 3-night and kind of 4-day sort of trip. And it didn't turn out that way. I ended up going home later that day. I'm not necessarily proud of it, but it was just, I was kind of actually down on myself a little bit at first, like, oh, you quit and all this stuff. But, you got to have balance too. And I'd already gone on a really big trip that year and done some other trips. So, my wife was at home with the kids, and I'd been hunting a lot at home. So I kind of just decided, like, I could stay up here alone another night, maybe see some deer, try to find another spot, or stick to this spot. Or just head home and kind of spend an extra day with the family. Not to mention I need to take care of all my gear and stuff like that before going back to work the next day. So I ultimately did make the decision to head back that day. But I climbed down from my stand. Like I said, it was a gorgeous day. Like, I wouldn't trade the experience for anything. Just thinking back about just the crisp, clean air, the beautiful sunrise, the sound of the creek behind me, just the solitude of being back there. Definitely kind of type 2 fun. I mean, it was pretty fun in the moment too, but looking back, it's just a great memory. Even though it wasn't like successful, I learned a ton by going back there. I stretched myself. I got out of my comfort zone. Like I said, like even like 2 years ago, you probably would not have been able to talk me into camping alone, going out let alone going out in the mountains, more than one night alone hunting. Like, I would have been like, no, I'm good. And, to be honest with you, it wasn't like, some guys I feel like are just wired for solo hunting. I don't necessarily think I'm one of those guys. I enjoy the camaraderie. I enjoy, having someone to share the experience with. So I'm not saying I'll never solo hunt again. I'm sure I probably will. But I'm not one of those guys that just was like, oh, it was so awesome. Like, just, I loved it. I really enjoy having the camaraderie, and like I said, sharing the experience with someone else. So, I learned that about myself. I learned about more about gear and hunting mountain deer, patience. I got some great time with God. So it was an amazing experience. And the biggest thing is just getting, like I said, getting out of your comfort zone, doing things that are hard, even though, like I said, probably some guys are listening. You're like, you're a huge wimp. That's not hard at all. But if it's your first time ever, and you've never done a solo trip, it's not easy. So, just get out there and do it. Get out of your comfort zone. You may love it. I keep saying it, but there's just adventure to be had anywhere. You don't have to keep putting it off and say, oh, well, when I save up the money, I'll go to Colorado or whatever, man. Just get out there, do it. Just test yourself, push yourself. Don't hide behind that. I feel like some guys probably even use that as an excuse a little bit, like, oh, I just don't have the money or the time to get out there and do these backcountry hunts. Well, dude, go for the weekend. Like, go in Western Virginia, go in West Virginia, go in Pennsylvania, pick up a free, easy over-the-counter tag, grab a buddy or go solo and just go have some fun. It's definitely worth it. So, don't have any other solo trips planned this year. I'm trying to think if there's any other sort of takeaways I got from it. Not really, just other than it was just a cool experience. Like I said, looking back on it right now, I definitely wouldn't trade it for anything. It's a really great memory. I'm flipping through some pictures right here. It's also a great way to just test your gear, see what systems work, what needs to be improved on, where you're comfortable, where you're confident, where you're not. It's good for improving your woodsmanship skills, for trying to make quick decisions and locating game. It's all stuff that, if nothing else, it's great practice for a bigger hunt in terms of getting your gear dialed, finding game. Just every aspect of it is valuable. Even if, you come out there and you don't fill a tag, the experience is going to be valuable and going to be worth it. So, again, I'm just kind of looking through here my my pictures to see if there's any other kind of takeaways I had from the trip. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just also, if nothing else, it's not easy this day and age to step away from the phones and the emails and all that stuff. And we all know that. We talk about that a lot on this show and other places it's talked about a lot. Even if it's 2 or 3 days of just getting back, getting some clarity, getting some time to just be a man in the wilderness, or a woman if you're a woman, just being a person, and it's definitely worthwhile. So I will say, in closing, don't be discouraged if you don't have the money or the time to go on a big out-of-state hunt. Don't use that as an excuse not to get out of your comfort zone. You're probably very comfortable, sleeping in your own bed, getting dressed in your warm house, listening to a podcast in your car on the way out, walking 300 yards to your tree stand. You get a little cold and hungry, you go back, grab a Hardee's biscuit or whatever. That's great. There's nothing wrong with that. I've hunted like that. I will still probably hunt like that to some degree. But just get out and have a totally immersive experience. Even if it's for one night. Even if it sounds scary and it sounds awful, it will be worth it in the long run. Just get out of your comfort zone. Start planning a trip. Just pick a weekend, talk to your wife, talk to your girlfriend, whatever. Talk to your husband, whatever it may be. But just plan something, get it on the calendar and start e-scouting. Get excited about it and go have some adventure. There's adventure to be had right here if you're willing to get out of your comfort zone, be a little cold, be a little hungry, be a little confused, not know exactly what's going on, it is absolutely worth it. It will make you a better person. It will make you a better hunter. I think anyone who calls himself a hunter should absolutely, by default, have to do at least one solo trip in their hunting career. Like, you just have to do it. So just do it. Just do it this year. If you do end up doing it, make sure you be safe, bring an inReach or some other type of communication device. Of course, let people know where you're going to be. Be smart about it, but do it. And let me know if you guys plan a solo adventure, and I want to hear about your adventures. So drop me a line if you have any questions about solo hunting. I'm not an expert, but I know something about it. And drop me a line at The Hunter's Quest on Instagram, or hunter@thisishuntersquest.com. Please like and review. Leave me a rating on the show. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm really looking forward to coming back from my adventures this year and sharing those on the podcast and on YouTube. So stick around. Thank you guys for all your support, and go out and have an adventure. Get uncomfortable and grow. All right, guys, take her easy. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks again for listening to the Hunter's Quest podcast, and make sure you stay up to date on social media at The Hunter's Quest on Instagram and The Hunter's Quest podcast on Facebook. And we'll have all kinds of photos and videos from my day-to-day, as well as stuff from the awesome guests we're having on here. As always, I'm more than happy to connect with you guys if you have questions about hunting or spiritual stuff or gear, fitness, whatever. Just drop me a line in my DMs, or you can email me at hunter@thisishuntersquest.com. If you like what you're hearing, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and leave me a rating and a review. That's really helpful. And don't forget to share with your friends. So stay tuned. Lots of cool stuff in the works, and I'm really excited to continue this quest together.